Your kids ran through that back corner of the yard again today. The one near the fence where the grass gets longer and the leaves pile up against the wood. They came in laughing, grass stains on their knees, and you checked them over the way you always do. Looked at their arms, their legs, behind their ears. You probably missed one. Not because you were careless, because the tick most likely to give your child Lyme disease is the size of a poppy seed. It does not look like a tick yet. It looks like a speck of dirt, and it can be attached and feeding for 2 days before anyone notices it is there. Lyme disease is the most reported vector-borne illness in the United States. The CDC documents tens of thousands of confirmed cases every year, and estimates the real number is closer to 10 times that. The majority of those cases do not come from adult ticks that are easy to spot. They come from the nymph, the one nobody sees, the one that was already on your child when they walked back through your door. And the way most families try to prevent this is making the problem worse in a way nobody told you about. Every summer, people walk their yards with a spray tank and apply permethrin or another broad-spectrum insecticide across the whole lawn. The grass looks treated, the yard feels handled. You did something visible, and that feels like protection. Ticks do not live in your open lawn. Short grass dries out too fast and ticks dehydrate and die in it. They cannot survive there. The ticks that are going to attach to your family are living in a strip of ground that is almost never where people spray. It is the 3-foot transition zone where your mowed lawn meets anything else. The fence line, the wooded edge at the back of your property, the leaf pile in the corner, the overgrown border along the side of the house. That narrow strip of longer grass, leaf litter, and shade is where ticks climb to the tips of vegetation and wait with their front legs extended, ready to grab onto anything warm that brushes past. Your kids run through that zone every single day. The middle of your lawn, where you spent most of your time and most of your spray, has almost no ticks in it. The border, the place you probably walked past to get to the open lawn, is where the entire problem lives. So the spray goes on the wrong place, and while it sits on a lawn ticks barely use, something else is happening to the one system that was actually working. Opossums consume thousands of ticks per week, grooming them off their fur as they forage through your yard at night. Wolf spiders eat nymph ticks. Fire ants destroy tick larvae on contact. Certain species of birds consume hundreds of ticks per day during nesting season. Your yard has a natural system that was already running against ticks before you ever bought a spray tank. Broad-spectrum permethrin applied across an open lawn kills all of it. Every wolf spider in the treated area, every beneficial insect in the soil. The ticks you actually needed to kill are mostly in the border zone the spray never reached, and the predators that were keeping tick numbers down in the rest of your yard are now gone. A yard that gets broad sprayed every season ends up with fewer natural predators and the same tick population in the border zone it has always had. You paid for the spray and made the overall system weaker. Your family is no safer than before you started, and your dog, who runs the fence line and the border every single morning, has been walking through the highest tick density zone on your property since the day you moved in. And the tick most likely to attach to both of them is the one nobody ever warns you about. Adult ticks are brown visible, and the ones people find during tick checks. They are also responsible for a minority of Lyme disease transmissions. The nymph is in its second life stage, smaller than a sesame seed, translucent and active from May through July, when your kids are outside constantly. Studies tracking Lyme disease transmission consistently show that nymph ticks are responsible for the majority of human cases because they are small enough to feed for the full 2 to 3 days needed to transmit the bacteria without ever being noticed. You can do a thorough tick check and miss every nymph on your child's body, Not because you did not look carefully enough, because at that size, in hair, behind a knee, in a skin fold, they are genuinely invisible without knowing exactly where to look and using your fingertips as much as your eyes. The spots most people skip are the ones nymphs choose. The scalp along the hairline, behind both ears, the back of the neck, the armpit, the groin, behind the knees. Run your fingertips slowly across every one of those areas, not just your eyes. A nymph attached to skin feels like a small raised bump, not unlike a freckle, and the only way to catch it is touch. There is one piece of information about Lyme transmission that changes how urgent this actually is. The bacteria that causes Lyme disease is not transmitted instantly. It takes the tick approximately 36 to 48 hours of continuous feeding to pass the infection. Find and remove a tick within 24 hours and your risk drops to nearly zero. Find it after 48 hours and the equation changes completely. This is why the 2-day feeding window the nymph exploits is so dangerous. It is not just that you missed it on the check. It is that by the time you notice it, the window may already have closed. The tick check at the door still matters. It just has to be slower, more thorough, and done with your hands as much as your eyes, and it has to happen every single time. But the nymph tick did not start in your yard. It started on a mouse, and that is exactly where this ends. White-footed mice are the primary reservoir host for the bacteria that causes Lyme disease. Ticks feed on these mice, pick up the bacteria, and then drop off and eventually climb back up onto vegetation in your yard to wait for their next host. Your family, your dog, your kids running the fence line. Tick tubes address this at the actual source. A tick tube is a cardboard tube stuffed with permethrin-soaked cotton balls placed along fence lines, wooded borders, and anywhere mice travel through your property. White-footed mice collect that cotton to build their nests. The permethrin kills every tick feeding on those mice inside the nest before that tick ever detaches and makes it into your yard. You are not chasing ticks across your lawn. You are eliminating them at the point where they pick up the bacteria that makes them dangerous in the first place. Research from the Harvard School of Public Health tracked tick populations in yards treated with tick tubes over 2 consecutive seasons. Tick populations in treated yards dropped by up to 97%, not by coating every blade of grass in chemicals, by placing cardboard tubes along the fence line twice a year. You can buy them ready-made under the name Thermacell Tick Control Tubes at most hardware stores and online. They cost around $30 for a pack that covers an average yard. Or you can make them yourself with cardboard toilet paper rolls and permethrin-soaked cotton balls for almost nothing. The active ingredient is the same either way. Place them every 10 feet along any wooded border, fence line, or area where you know mice travel. Do this in spring and again in midsummer. That handles the source. But the ticks already waiting in your yard right now still need one more thing. Take a pump sprayer with permethrin diluted to the correct concentration for outdoor use and apply it only along that 3-foot transition zone, the border strip, not the open lawn, just the edge where the long grass meets the short grass, where the fence line runs, where the leaf litter collects. That is the waiting zone. That is where ticks climb the vegetation and extend their legs looking for a passing host. A single targeted border treatment twice per season, combined with tick tubes placed along fence lines and wooded edges, addresses the tick at its source and at its waiting zone. Your open lawn stays untreated. Your wolf spiders and fire ants in the center of your yard survive. The zones that actually matter get handled. One more layer that most families never think about. The clothes your kids wear outside can be pre-treated with permethrin before they ever go out. Permethrin binds to fabric fibers and kills ticks on contact when they crawl onto treated clothing. It survives multiple washes and does not transfer to skin once dry. Treat the clothes they wear for yard time, hiking, or any time they are near that border zone, and you have added a barrier that works even when the tick tube has not yet reached them. Your family's real exposure is in that border strip. Your dog's real exposure is in that border strip. Every method that ignores that and treats the open lawn instead is spending money and chemicals in the wrong place while the actual problem stays exactly where it has always been. Tonight, look at your yard and find every place where your mowed lawn transitions into something else. The fence line, the back edge where the neighbor's trees start, the strip along the side of the house where the mulch collects, the corner where the leaf pile builds up every fall. That is your tick map. Every one of those borders is an active waiting zone right now. Order tick tubes this week and place them along every one of those lines before the weekend. Apply a targeted permethrin border treatment along that same strip. Treat the outdoor clothes your kids wear most. Do all of it again in midsummer. Tell me in the comments what your yard looks like. Do you have a wooded border, a fence line, or a neighbor's overgrown edge running along your property? And have you ever found a tick on your child or your dog after doing a full check and thinking you were clear? Watch the video on your screen right now for more simple methods like this one. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so the next one finds you before the next tick does. Try this before the weekend and come back to tell me what you found along your borderline. I read every single comment.